Of the nation's 2.5 million farm workers in 2012, 71% were immigrants. 98% of those immigrants were from Mexico and Central America. Policies such as NAFTA and CAFTA-DR have restructured the economies of the regions and forced large-scale migration amongst farmers.
From a personal perspective, I think whether we've been interfering in countries or not, we still have a moral obligation to help immigrants and migrant populations that are coming to our borders. But in particular, especially in Latin America, you have a strong history of American intervention in these countries. And even after we've removed ourselves from those countries, the legacy that we've left has been one of instability in terms of economic situations, in terms of social instability, supporting corrupt governments, etc. So there is a strong and consistent tie that we can draw between American actions in these countries and the conditions that they're fleeing, right? So many of the refugees that are showing up at our border, especially using the migrant caravan as an example, people are leaving Honduras and other Latin American countries because of the conditions that were directly caused by American intervention in these countries.
One of the organizations looking to help migrant farm workers is El Comité de Apoyo a los Trabajadores Agrícolas, or CATA.
CATA is an immigrant advocacy organization. The mission of the organization is to empower and organize workers in the immigrant community so that they can stand up for themselves and fight for their rights, to make changes with what's going on in their workplace or their communities. All immigrants are welcome to become members of the organization. And then they have a voice and a vote in what goes on. So as a membership grassroots organization, we're bottom-up organizing, listening to the community and what they're interested in changing or fighting for or learning more about, and we take it from there.
A farm worker who has seen the impact that CATA has done is Manuel, who now has worked for CATA as a lead organizer for 25 years.
Bueno, yo vine acá en los 80s.
I came here in the 80s looking for a better life. I'm from a really rural area in Mexico called Guanajuato, which is near the center of Mexico. So I worked for 14 years in the mushroom industry, and in the 80s when I started is when CATA also opened an office in Kennett Square and started doing outreach and sharing information with the workers. I was working by season and in between returning to Mexico and then coming back, always undocumented. So I remember one time we would go to work, and the schedules, they could be anywhere from starting at 3 or 4, going till 11 or noon, or even 8 o'clock at night. Supervisors or the people in charge were always changing how things worked, how much you got paid for the mushrooms you were picking, the cleaning, and the way that they treated us. The housing that they would provide would never be adequate. It could be overcrowded and dirty, and there could be cockroaches or rats and just not really clean.
So first, we've caused this influx of individuals seeking work in our country. And second, we tend not to pay them or even reward them or treat them in human ways. So with migrant laborers, we typically have a lot of instances of overly long work days, being underpaid, being given unrealistic quotas to meet in terms of having to pick bushels of apples or whatever product it is that they're required to farm or collect, such that it's impossible for any one individual to make enough money to be able to support themselves. But then you also have corrupt systems in terms of how do we get these migrant laborers to America? Are they being held in inhumane or illegal conditions? And so there's lots of economic and legal and ethical complications that come into play when you have migrant laborers coming into the United States and working in the United States.
During this time, we were also in communication with CATA and CATA's organizer, who was in Kennett Square, about what we could do. At the end, we decided we wanted to form our own independent union, and we did. So we were able to negotiate better pay, better treatment, paid holidays, and conflict resolution policies. The one thing that I can say is that the work that we do is really necessary, just like Megan was talking about earlier around immigration and all of the movement that's going on around immigration. It's important for us to be here. Policies that the U.S. has had over time have really impacted the economies and the circumstances of these other countries. And maybe it's not on me necessarily, or most, the people around here in the communities that they're coming into, but it's something that the country has done for a long time and isn't really looking to change. So these are the consequences of those actions, and I think it's important to remember that and to remind ourselves that this didn't just happen. And if we really want to focus on immigration and make true comprehensive reform, you've got to look at what's going on in this country, and you've got to look at what's going on in the countries that people are migrating from.